So let's look at some of the deliverables for this project. So I'm going to click over to the other tab here. I have this is Chrome I'm showing you on the screen. And I've already got a PDF file. This was the export from Revit that I created for this. It is a multi-page document. I can open up the toolbar here, the sidebar, and you can see all of the pages that I have. In this case, I have 7 pages for presentation and just kind of what I would like to see as far as a basic level of development and deliverables on this project. So the reason I'm showing you this in the browser is the idea that we can immediately, because of our page layout, go to a presentation sheet. It basically fills the screen. Probably with a little more work, I could have gotten it to fill the whole screen. It looks like there may be just a little bit of a glitch in multi-page documents. So here we have the first sheet in that. I've labeled it and just given a front-on view, kind of expressing the articulation of the facade. I've gone ahead and done all of the renderings in Enscape. I like using Enscape because I can go pretty seamlessly between making changes in Revit and having them immediately update in Enscape. And it gives a nice quality of rendering. So besides the first, that front elevation view, or that front, I guess, what they would call it, the money shot, just picking your best angle of your architecture. This is a view of some of the module development. And you can see I've created 2 different facades. They're all mounted to the same base frame, and I'm going to supply that base frame as a Revit file for you. So in previous years, students would have to create all of these elements. And this year I figured that's a bit tedious, and it doesn't really gain you a whole lot. You've had plenty of experience with making extruded custom family components, and I wanted to give you the base unit. You can go ahead and modify it if you want, but it gives you a starting point. So we take the base unit, and then we create, we're going to work in a mode of making model groups. So we take that and we add a facade to it to make a model group. In this case, we use 3 back frames, and each one of those has the same facade on it. And then I combine those into another larger model group. So this gives you all kinds of flexibility with the width of your project. Although I'm not limiting you to 8 feet, the only caution here is that once you go over 8 feet, it's no longer trailerable without having to have a wide load designation for it. The third view in this scene is kind of the idea of how these modules are going together. So I put one module off on a hoist. The yellow framework is the yellow that you're seeing up here on the top. That's just a piece of metal fabrication that would be used to clamp the modules and then deliver them by a single crane hook onto our building platform. So this would give a viewer, all of these are about presentation images. This would give your client an idea about how the modules would be fitting together in this type of construction if you were doing it. And then once again, as I mentioned in the immediate introduction, this idea of thinking about seismic loading, soft story issues, shear walls. So we have, which probably overkill in this, we have 2 stair towers, probably not the density to necessarily require that. Because we're going to also be doubling this building, and I'll show you that in the end. But one of these could also be an elevator tower, or they could be combined services and done differently. The important thing is in the project that you indicate this idea of creating these shear wall elements to tie your building together structurally. And then the other thing is down below is the idea of thinking about that idea of soft story that we've discussed from seismic loading. And here I've created a moment frame, which is a cast, not a cast concrete, but a built-up concrete form with rebar in it, in order to stiffen that first floor assembly, basically to create a high-performance building for seismic loading. This is a close-up shot of the facade. I think this is kind of an important, reference space to give people a sense of scale, articulation of the facade, and quite easy to do. And then this is a view of doubling the building. So if you follow through with the footprint that I've created of the actual module, I extend 4 feet over past the end of these vertical columns here. And then when they're put back to back with modules, that creates an 8-foot hallway or walkway or access way through it. And so it's very quick to create basically the full building with access to the units. And once again, you can see how this doubling has created a lot of stairwells. So these stairwells could be substituted out for elevator cores, a couple of them, depending on how you might visualize this. But I think this is kind of an important final issue, is that's dealing with what happens to the backside of your module development. And then this is the last shot of the deliverable series. You could have many more, obviously, depending on how excited you get about doing the work. But now I've taken those modules and I've added a ceiling plane in. It's showing up as dark. I'm not exactly sure whether I have two materials on that ceiling plane, but I also have, as you can see in red, the idea of HVAC being supplied to the units. And if you look over here on the left, you can see that exposed up HVAC ductwork showing up in the ceiling plane, between the ceiling plane and the next floor up in these modules. And then if you look down the hallway, you'll also notice that I've placed a light in the hallway that can be seen over at this juncture between the two HVACs. I had a little bit of trouble with that lighting. It didn't seem to understand up and down within the mirror plane, within the ceiling plane. Not exactly sure what happened. I had to make some modifications to that. I'll discuss that more when I get to the project level. So the next thing I'd like to do is actually kind of bring you into the module that I'm going to supply you, and kind of make some discussions about my thinking behind it and what variations you could make on it if you wanted to.